Below are the exact picks I have made in the NOLA.com The Times Pick'em Pick'em League, and my picks against the spread are added in as Lagniappe. At the bottom are my weekly and season records. To join and compete against me at NOLA.com The Times Pick'em, you'll need to have a Create a CBSSports.com ID. It's very easy to create one, and participate. It's free, and the weekly winner will be mentioned in my column on Tuesdays. The winner of the league will be featured at season's end. And if you missed the Thursday game that week, it's not that big of a deal. You can still make your picks for the rest of the week. However, you will receive a 0 for the top pick. To join, click here. The password is NOLA. If you have any trouble, feel free to email me at jderry@nola.com. The rules are simple. Choose the winner of each NFL game each week, then move them around in the order you feel most confident. You then receive points based on how many wins you correctly predicted and the confidence level you placed on each one. Weekly, overall picks results for Jim Derry and top readers listed at bottom. Congrats to Steve Govig and Yolanda Call for being the Week 2 winners. Week 3 picks are in order of confidence. Straight up home team in bold: New England over Houston, Sunday at noon. Well, last week's pick might have been one of the easiest I've ever had to pick, considering there was no way Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were going to start the season 0-2. It's not much different here, as who in the world thinks they'll lose their first two at home? What else needs to be said here? I love ya, Deshaun Watson, but be prepared to take your lumps. And with two healthy wide receivers of 4, no matter how good the Texans' defense is, they're not going to stop Brady from scoring. Against the spread, Patriots minus 13.5. Green Bay over Cincinnati, Sunday at 3:25 p.m. The Bengals look like a team in disarray, and I have to say this is one of the big surprises of the early part of the season for me. We already know 0-2 is pretty dang close to a death sentence, so if there is any sense of urgency for this Cincinnati team, they'll show up here. But like New England in Week 2, the chances of Aaron Rodgers losing 2 in a row this early in the season against a mediocre or worse football team is highly unlikely. With or without Jordy Nelson, expect the Packers' best in front of the home faithful. Against the spread, Packers minus 8.5. Oakland over Washington, Sunday at 7:30 p.m. So I haven't exactly been lighting the world on fire thus far with my spread predictions, but I have been pretty close on diagnosing who I thought would be good and who would NT. And this has been one of my favorite teams to jump on in the AFC since late last year, as I had targeted this year for a possible run towards Super Bowl 52. No matter where the game is played, I am always going to pick a top 5 team against a mediocre one, unless I hit my head before turning on the computer. Luckily for y'all, I have spent the day in a bump-free zone. Against the spread, Raiders minus 3.5. Favorite pick against the spread. Pittsburgh over Chicago, Sunday at noon. First off, something about this game stinks. Maybe it's because the Bears aren't as bad as they showed last week against an inspired Tampa Bay team playing its opener, or maybe it's because the Steelers have been known to kill a few knockout pool entries when it appears as if they should win in a cakewalk. I say this from being burned quite a few times in the past. And when I smell stink, I stay away. Unless it's all over me, and then I take a shower. How about I stay away and take a shower? Yeah, that's probably best for my wife and co-workers. I'll still pick the Steelers here, but I will not take them with any of my 3 remaining knockout picks. However, I think the remaining 344 entries in my pool definitely should take them. Against the spread, Bears plus 7.5. Baltimore over Jacksonville, Sunday at 8:30 a.m. In London. It won't be long before the Jaguars are big underdogs in games like this. I overestimated them, as well, and underestimated the Ravens at the same time. With Joe Flacco and a fantastic coach, Baltimore is a pretty damn good football team that almost surely will be playing into the second week of January. Meanwhile, the Jags are going to have to go through some growing pains and maybe rethink where they're at within their quarterback situation. Against the spread, Ravens minus 3.5. Buffalo over Denver, Sunday at noon. So in the grand scheme of things, this pick doesn't make a lot of sense, and I should be sold a bit on Denver, who thrashed a really good Dallas team last week. However, way too many people are underrating Buffalo, which obviously has a top-notch defense and an offense that most weeks should be good enough to get the job done. Another defensive struggle for the Bills, and I love the under in this game way more than I feel confident with a pick. Against the spread, Bills plus 2.5. Tampa Bay over Minnesota, Sunday at noon. It's just one game, and it was an inspired home opener, but my pick to win the NFC South looked the part last Sunday. Now, we don't know if the Vikings will have the services of Sam Bradford, although coach Mike Zimmer did what he could to squash the concerns. Don't care. Still think the Bucs should have another nice performance against another mediocre NFC Central team. Against the spread as of the time I write this, the game is offline due to the uncertainty of Bradford's playing status. Assuming he plays, I'm guessing the Vikings would be about a 2.5-point favorite. If he doesn't, it'll either be even, or the Bucs will be a slight favorite. Either way, I'll take Tampa Bay. Philadelphia over NY Giants, Sunday at noon. Oh my, it looks like the G-men are beginning to turn into the Saints. Except with a much better defense. Quite the opposite as these two teams, whose fans despise one another, meet up in Philly on Sunday. Instead, it's the Eagles and young Carson Wentz who could be ready to take the next step in the NFC East. Maybe, maybe not, but I don't think the Eagles need to step too far to win this one, and I'm fairly certain this spread will rise a bit before game time. Against the spread, Eagles -3.5. Atlanta over Detroit, Sunday at noon. This is a tough one to predict for a couple of reasons. First, it's tough to judge whether the Dirty Birds are going to be able to play at the level they played last week in opening their new stadium, or whether they're more like the team that opened in Chicago in Week 1. Also, while we should believe Detroit is better, they remain fairly one-dimensional on offense, and it's way too early to believe in their defense. With all that said, my gut tells me Atlanta is the better team, and if Matty I wait until it's really cold to choke Ryan continues playing at anywhere near the level of last year in Week 2, this should be a 7 to 10 point victory. Against the spread, Falcons -3.5. Indianapolis over Cleveland, Sunday at noon. While some casinos and betting sites list the game as even, most list the Browns as anywhere from a 1 to 3 point favorite. Why is this significant? If it holds, it will be the first time since late in the 2015 season they were a favorite in any game, and the first time since the middle of the 2014 season they were a favorite on the road. Guess what? They're not ready for that. The Colts were a good play against the Cardinals last week, and although I picked Arizona last Tuesday, I had changed my mind by Sunday. Why? Because with Scott Tolzien out, that turned Indy into bad instead of horrible. That's enough for me to take them at home against a young Cleveland team that will be better by the end of the season, but not yet. Against the spread, Colts +1.5. Second favorite pick against the spread. Carolina over New Orleans, Sunday at noon. I have said all the bad things I need or want to say about the home team. For now, after 3 years of saying so, I can only express my thoughts on the changes that need to be made so many times. That being said, something tells me this will be a much closer game than the pundits in Las Vegas think it will be, especially with the cloud hovering around the health of Cam Newton. He'll probably play, but losing Greg Olsen is a bigger hit than most realize. Still, I'm not picking this defense to beat any quarterback I deem to be above average until they prove me wrong. P.S. The Saints have won just once in the last 5 tries at Bank of America Stadium. But in 3 of those 4 losses, the margin was less than 5. Desperation mode here for the black and gold, but I feel a heartbreaking loss coming on and another 0-3 start. Against the spread, Saints +5.5. Least favorite pick against the spread. Dallas over Arizona, Monday at 7:30 p.m. What in the Rocky Mountains was that? Cowboys were y'all looking ahead to Arizona? Ha 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 ha. Okay, every team puts up a stinker now and then, and the Week 2 performance started south and ended up somewhere south of Brownsville. Championship caliber teams usually follow up stinkers with big-time rebounds, and that should be tough against this average Ibis group. Against the spread, Cowboys -3.5. San Francisco over LA Rams, Thursday at 7:25 p.m. Okay, while I am not buying into Brian Hoyer and whatever receiver you want to pluck, Carlos Hyde is a beast, and the 49ers defense is as good as just about any other unit in football. Saying that, it seems weird to me a bad football team is giving up points on the road against a rival. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and these are usually the ones I usually look back on at the end of any given NFL day and say, yeah, that one really was that easy. Against the spread, 49ers +2.5. Kansas City over LA Chargers, Sunday at 3:25 p.m. Every goofball with a bookie is jumping on the Chiefs bandwagon, and will be all over Kansas City this week. While they likely will be a playoff team come January, they're never going to be a sure thing. And while LAI have typed San Diego so many times and had to hit the delete button, you just don't know, looked pretty bad against Miami last week in gift-wrapping a victory. This could end up being one of the more entertaining games of the week. Against the spread, Chargers plus 3.5. If I had a second favorite least pick against the spread, this would be it. Because I am only being stubborn with that golden rule thing. I'm not touching this game with a 20-foot metal rod. Miami over NY Jets, Sunday at noon. I'm not going to rail on Captain Loser, aka Jay Cutler, again this week, and the Dolphins should be able to take one against maybe the worst team in the NFL. However, you might want to not only remember the golden rule of not taking road teams in division games in knockout pools, but this especially holds true against the spread. In fact, you should not only stay away from this game in any fun-type wagering activities, but just stay away from it altogether. Don't even check the score, and don't watch the highlights. If there are any, that is. Against the spread, Jets plus 6.5. Tennessee over Seattle, Sunday at 3:05 p.m. I have already said how mediocre I think the Seahawks are going to be this season. They proved that last week. The betting public is going to be all over Seattle, because they're the reason why Vegas makes money. They can't believe Seattle is an underdog to Tennessee. It doesn't make sense, they say. This will be the kids' Christmas money, they boast. Don't be like them. They're losers. These aren't the old Seahawks. Or the old Titans. Against the spread, Titans minus 2.5. Spreads are gathered from oddsshark.com on Monday of each week. Blank. Record straight up week 2115. Season 2110.677. Against the spread week 2610. Favorite ATS New England 4.5 W, 20. Second favorite Dallas 1.5 L, 02. Least favorite Tennessee 1.5 W, 20. Season 1318.419. Don't give up on me after 2 weeks. Saints picks week 2 Patriots straight up W knee 4.5 W. Season 11 straight up, 11 Austrian shillings. Point leaders in Pick'em contest week 2 Steve Govig and Yolanda Call, 130 of a possible 136 points. Fantastic Jim Derry 109, T 44th place out of 146. Season Yolanda Call leads all players with 208 points out of a possible 256. Jim Derry 182 points, tied for 49th place. Blank. Previous columns. Click on week to view week 2115 straight up, 610 Austrian shillings. Week 1105 straight up, 78 Austrian shillings. Jim Derry can be reached at jderry@nola.com or 504.826.3531. Follow him on Twitter at www.twitter.com/JimDerrage.